That one should be fine.
Well, I'm not sure. Is that the new one?
Yeah, you hear you though. Oh, my ass and over.
Oh, really?
Yes. Just picking up that mic.
It's picking up the mic.
I'm not seeing yours.
God, fuck. I don't even know where my cell is. Who's got my cell? Oh, there it is.
So, last year, or the
There,
last year,
Mr. Pink finally showed up.
we were working on a few different patterns, and I'd have to say that Jordan's slider.
No, I heard, where's my cell? Oh, there it is.
Because I saw
So it's
how
picking up on the mic.
that stuff is on a fly. We've got
Craft fur in the head of that fly. And I've already had 3 or 4 people come up to me and ask me what the heck that stuff
This
is.
retarded.
You can buy it at a craft store. It comes in these big sheets. And you just work away at it. You can see I've tied a few flies here. I've been working on a couple different patterns. This one here, I went to a silver body with a chartreuse because in my past experience, chartreuse and pink is a killer combination for pink salmon. So I've also tied this one. I'm just trying to find the one that I did with the chartreuse here, which it's not there anymore. But oh, there it is. Sorry, I had things lined up here so well I couldn't find them. But yeah, so I've also got them tied in this with a pink body, and I was using bright pink stretch cord. But I kind of like the silver body a little bit better. I think it just looks a little bit more pleasing to the salmonoids. Anyhow, we're going to get right to it here. We'll start. So, we're starting off with a pretty messy desk here. And I got all my hooks are all buried up here, so I'm going to get at it. We're starting out with a saltwater hook in a size 2. We take that barb off there. Typically, I'd have this thing ready to go, but we're doing her live. So what the heck, let's do it live. There's your size 2. And then I've got another thing I picked up at a bead store. I picked up at Michael's. I got these beautiful incandescent pink beads. And we all know that pink is a good color for pink salmon. And that kind of armors the head a little bit too. So instead of having your traditional thread-bound heads, it's kind of nice to mix them up every once in a while. I think it is anyhow. So we get that in the vise. I've got a pink uni thread and 3/0 because salmon like to chew the bejesus out of hooks real quick. This way you'll get a few extra fish on the line before it starts to fall apart. And with what I'm making today, I'm going to be using a few different dubbing loops. And those dubbing loops you don't want coming apart either. So for the tail, I don't know if you guys use schlappen a lot, but typically left with a whole bunch of butt ends. Instead of using marabou, you don't want a real long tail anyhow, so the butt ends of
schlappen feathers make for good little tails, short tails, and keep the rest of it for tying your coho flies or whatever else patterns you want to get tied up with the quality of the feathers. So we got that guy, tie her into the back end. get too crazy in the length. And then I've got a little chunk of this angel hair in a pink. Take a look for that guy. I've been working on this for the last couple of days. You don't need too much of it. And all I was doing was just laying it across the back. Some guys, I'm sure some guys out there will be laying it in the body, on the sides, or wherever else like to lay it. Sparkle in the flash. But being that we're live, across the back is pretty easy. And then just make sure it's cut to length, the same length as your flap. At that point, what we're going to do is we're going to go back here and tie in the Pink French in a size 5, which is large. This stuff is pretty nice stuff. I've written kind of a lot of different bodies with this. It's got, I'm not sure if it's leather or cardboard inside of the tinsel, but it just really bolts the body up nicely. So I lay that off to the side. And then, pretty straightforward, work your way up. And as you're going, you kind of keep the tension on. And untwist as you're twisting, or it will wrap itself up. As you can probably see there. But you gotta keep the tension on this stuff. I'm not sure if it would be easier off of a bobbin, but on the bobbin it's pretty easy.
Wrap that up the body. It doesn't need to be too tight. I'm letting a little bit of the pink show there. It's more of a feature than anything too much crazier than that. Work this guy back, and all you want to do is just lock that tinsel off. At that point, remove the silver. What do they call that stuff? Uni French. It's not easy to come by that stuff either. I do have a little bit of it left at Spud Valley Sporting Goods. So here, you got your butt end. At this point, we're going to make a quick, not a very big dubbin loop. And lock it down, move your bobbin back up to the front. Take your dubbin loop tool here. Throw your beads on the floor. In case you didn't hear, that's what that noise was in the background. It's called a dirty fly tying bench. So, we were tying that in chartreuse, and like I showed people before, I've got these handy little boxes that we've stuffed with all our diamond dub from Superfly. Pretty sexy. You can see the ones that I've been using. I've been using the olive and whichever, but today for this fly, because it is a pink fly, I like pink and I like chartreuse for pinks. So we're going to take it out. You want to keep it fairly thick. A lot of guys will look at that and be like, whoa, he's putting it on thick. Yeah, I am, because it's really short. It's maybe an 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch thick, so you want it pretty dense, or you won't even see it. And toward the end, you'll see I kind of pick it out a bit too. So it shows through that lovely craft fur like nothing I've seen before. So you put that in your dubbin loop, push her up to the head, and we get busy with the spin in here. Can you see that okay there, Mr. Cameraman? Can you kind of see what I'm working on here?
Bring it down a little bit.
Down this way? Perfect. Yeah, it's kind of nice to have the cameraman kind of giving you the insight, because I can't really see what you guys are seeing, but I see what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing is looking pretty darn good. So at that point, you can take your little chunk of Velcro strip or dubbin scraper, and you just kind of bug it out a little bit. At that point, we're going to take this. Hopefully I don't cause an earthquake, because it's pretty tight quarters here. And I'm just going to work it up a little bit on the thorax here. Not going to go too crazy on it. But at that point, you want to leave a little bit of room here for your next little loop that you're going to put in. So there's enough room there. We're going to do back-to-back loops here. So at this point, we're locking this guy down, and we're going to cut away the excess. And don't throw this little stuff away, because it's pretty easy. You just take it and you pull it. It'll pull right back out, and you can throw that back in your dubbin box, because this stuff ain't cheap. But anyhow, we'll do that later. Not while you guys are watching me. cut that stuff off because we're going to get right busy again with another loop. We're going to make sure that this is anchored well before we go to our next stage here. So we got that's all anchored. At this point you can kind of bug it out a bit. Looking very sexy. That's a nice thing about the Velcro. On a dubbing loop you can really get crazy with it. So that's a nice accent. You can probably fish that fly the way it is right now. But we're not, because we're going to make it sexy. So another little dubbing loop here. You don't need to go too crazy because as you can see there's not too much room to fill. And lock her back in. At that point, shorten your bobbin up. Put our tool back in the back end here, lay it over the back, and then we're going to get pretty crafty here with this craft fur. So you can see the craft fur, it's not really long, but it's very sparse, which is awesome for a dubbing loop. And I'm going to show you how sexy this stuff is. I'm going to take a good chunk of this. I just hope you guys can see what I'm doing here. Well, you're not at this moment, but anyhow, so when you cut it off, can you see that okay?
Yes.
You can see how thick this stuff is. So what I do is you just kind of pick at it a little bit, and you'll see a lot of this stuff will come picking out of there. And you want to save the thicker, the strandier stuff, so you just kind of work at it a little bit and get all that fine stuff. It's like the undercoat of like seal dubbing or whichever. It's kind of the same stuff. It's finer stuff. You want to get that out because it really bulks your fly up. So now you get that stuff out of there. See, I'm getting all that short stuff. Can you see that okay? Some guys will keep that stuff. Not so much here, because you can buy a sheet of that craft fur for about $3 or $4 and it'll tie a ton of flies. So now you got this craft fur chunk. Take your loop. Open up your loop. Oh, we got a couple twists in there. We gotta get those twists out because you want it stacked right up to the head. This is where big fingers they come in. Not so handy. Okay, so you got your dubbing loop. Take your craft fur, stuff her back in there, like so. Work it up to the head, and as you're doing it, you're kind of spreading it out. I hope you can see that because the bobbin's kind of in the way. Everything's in the way. Spread it out like so. Whoa, this is sexy stuff. Anybody that hasn't used craft fur, it's time to go out and get some. You're going to love it. Okay, so you see how that's all laid out there? Can you see it okay there, Mr. Cameraman?
Mm-hmm.
Stacked her in there pretty like. Now, instead of leaving this butt end on there, you're going to take your scissors, your skizzers. You just want to kind of make sure that the tips are kind of lined up, right? Take your skizzers and you're going to cut fairly short on one side. You're going to love this. If I could get my mustache that straight, I'd be a pretty happy man. So now, it's all, can you see that okay, how I've cut one side away? Perfect. Now, watch the magic, ladies and gentlemen. Watch the magic. So as I'm spinning this sucker, you can see it starts getting really sparse and prickly like a perfect light hackle. The perfect flow. And as you're going, you're spinning it up, take your Velcro and you kind of just buff it out. Get those twists out. Oh, that's good stuff. Pretty exciting stuff, eh, cameraman?
Amazing.
So you can see. Can you see how that thing looks? The perfect hackle. The perfect hackle. But it's not a hackle. But you'd think it was. So now we're taking our dubbing loop, wrapping it back, and we're going to polymer it back to the one side so you're not wrapping over each other, which is pretty important if you're trying to make a nice stack. Peel it back so you're not wrapping over. Same thing, going back. Peel her back. One more. Might be another half wrap in there. So at that point, holding on to your dubbing tool. Peel her back a little bit. Well, this fly's coming together. And then I usually want to maybe see if we can put that last little loop in there. What the heck, eh? Nothing like throwing a little bit of craft fur away. So you got that piece. We're going to follow in behind it. Just like to get a little bit of that craft fur, make sure it's laying right before I start locking it down. Because I saw there was a couple pieces there that were trapped. There's no such thing as a perfect fly unless your name is Scott Boulder. At that point, we're going to lock off that dubbing loop, go around it once, lock her down. Okay, at that point I can cut that butt end of the dubbing loop out of there. This fly is taking shape real quick here, ladies and gentlemen. So now, peel her back, everything's out behind the bead. Get our whip finishing tool in here. 1, 2, 3, bingo. Lock her down. Nice and tight behind the bead. Whew! Ladies and gentlemen, you have yourself a nightmare for a pink salmon. Maybe that's what we'll call it. Pink salmon nightmare. Or I guess it could be a bit of a wet dream or something like that, or whichever. I don't know what you'd call it. But hey, if you guys come up with a great idea for a name, let's hear it. You can see, how does it look on your side?
Beautiful.
Hopefully it looks as good on your side as it does on my side. But anyhow, we're going to go up top. I haven't named this one yet, but it's going to be named here very shortly. We're back on top. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching our fly tying seminar and tutorial here at Friday Night Flies. There's 1.5 million recipes on our website, FridayNightFlies.com. Join us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Friday Night Flies. And post your lucky recipes. Maybe you got a fly that I need to see. And if it's something I need to see, you better add the recipe to it as well, because I'm going to want to tie it. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening.